Our next speaker, Kristina Pereckaite, wears a couple of hats. As Entrepreneur Development Manager at the NatWest Accelerator, she and her team support countless high-growth businesses every year, working with entrepreneurs to develop themselves as leaders and accelerate their business growth. Her passion doesn't just stop when she finishes her day job, as she also invests a huge amount of time in Brighton Startup, an organisation focused on providing additional support and guidance to regional startups to help them realise their potential. If you visit brightonstartup.com, you can find out more and also listen to some of her podcasts. They are so well put together and provide some great insights into the minds of our most successful local business leaders. A passionate advocate of the Brighton startup scene, Kristina will help you today to decide whether investment funding is a good idea for your business, how to get your business investment ready, and where to find the right investors.
Hi everyone, hope you're enjoying the fundraiser. What an awesome thing for Silicon Brighton to have put together. Really great to be a part of it. My name is Kristina Pereckaite. I'm a co-founder of Brighton Startup. Our main mission is to drive investment into the startups of the city in Brighton. I've also been managing the NatWest Accelerator in Brighton for the last 3 years. And one of the main challenges that startups come to us with or have questions about is around securing investment for their business. And whilst the journey for every founder, every business will be very different because it depends on, how much you're raising, what sector you're in, what stage your business is at, the journey will be very different for everybody. However, if you are at a point where you want to raise investment, but you just don't quite know where to start, what you should be doing and what steps you should be proactively taking, then this will help you get started and take a step in that right direction. Step 1 is figuring out if investment is the right type of funding for your business. To figure that out, you need to ask yourself a couple of questions. So first of all, what do you need the funding for? If your answer is you're having cash flow problems, you can't quite make ends meet, then investment isn't quite the right funding for you, because if you look at it from an investor's perspective, they have a lump sum of money that they want to invest in something, and they want to make quite a big return on that money, and they want to know that this is, an exciting proposition for them to be a part of. If you're looking to raise investment because you have such high demand and you just can't meet the demand, then that's definitely a much more exciting proposition for an investor. If you if you need the investment to grow at a much quicker rate, then you could, if you bootstrapped it, brilliant proposition for an investor. So have a think about what you need the money for, and if you are an investor and you are being asked for that money from an investment perspective, remember this isn't a loan. What is it? Is it an exciting proposition? Is it a real investment situation? You also need to think about, are you happy to give away a share of your business? This seems quite obvious, but it can really help you make that decision. Are you willing to give away a part of your business to somebody else? And what also comes with that is a change in how you run the business going forward. It's ultimately a question of what kind of business do you want to run, because going forward you will have to start making decisions based on not just what you want to do, but what is in the best interests of your shareholders, right? So if you want to release a new product, you want to cut a product, you want to go down a different route, you want to pivot your business, is that in the best interest of your shareholders? That's a really important thing to consider. Is that the kind of business you want to run? Are you happy to focus on shareholder value as well as just what you want to do in the business? Is your business model and your business an investable business? That is a really important question to answer. So what I mean by that is, do you have not just the want to grow, but do you have the capability? Does your business model have the capability to scale? And the word scale gets thrown around quite a bit, but it's very different from just growing, right? So every business, of course, wants to grow in turnover and profit, sometimes as a company, but scaling is being able to 10x your business at least, right? And from an investor's perspective, they are looking to make at least a 10x return on their investment. So maybe within 5 years' time, let's say, depending on the kind of business. As well as asking yourself the question, do you want to grow your business to that scale? Does your business model allow for that to happen? Ultimately, it's about what kind of business do you personally want to run, right? So you really need to think about that. And if investment isn't quite right for you, could you go down the route of getting a loan? Could you go down the route of crowdfunding from your customers or potential customers? Are there potential grants available? And a lot of the time, grants are very overlooked because grants that governments issue change all the time, right? Because policies change and the budgets that they have changed. So you always need to keep an eye on those, but there might be a great alternative funding option. Step 2 is getting investment ready. If you haven't considered it already, you need to think about how will you return the money that the investors put into your business back to the investor, right? So yes, you might have figured out how you will 10x their investment, but how will you actually free that money back to the investor? So a lot of businesses might be looking at a corporate buyout eventually, so as an option. So is there a bigger corporation that either you're competing with and would eventually want to buy you out to secure their place in the market, or perhaps perhaps your product is something that they might diversify into. They might want to access new markets. They want to diversify their product pool. So have a think about if a corporate buyout is a potential exit for your business. And this is what an exit strategy is. And it's really crucial to have that in place when you're going to an investor so that they know how they're going to get their money back. If you are thinking, I do not want to sell my business at any point, this is going to be, I've created myself the job that I want for life, then you need to reconsider whether investment is right for you, or think of a different solution as to how you will give the money back to your investor and be ready to answer those questions. The other things you need to have in place to be investment ready is certain documentation. Your legal setup of your business needs to be, ready for investment. So in order to sell effectively shares of your company, shares need to exist in your company. So you need to be set up as a limited company that has shares, for example. If you have a co-founding team, are the shareholder agreements in place? Do you have all the documentation that you need to make it as easy as possible for the investor to say, yep, I'm in, and I can do my due diligence and everything is in place? Another thing to consider there is your venture eligible for SEIS? So that's the Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme run by the government, which effectively is something that makes investing into early stage businesses for investors a much more attractive thing because they get tax relief on their investment. And if you are registered for SEIS, then you instantly become a much more attractive proposition to an investor. So have a look if your business is eligible for SEIS, and register so you have the certificates, so those are ready to present to the investors as well. Then you want to make sure that you are pitch ready as well, right? So if you look at the sort of timeline of how things might happen for you, is initially you might have that initial discussion with somebody, whether they're an investor or not, or somebody that's going to introduce you to an investor, or you communicated it to a customer who introduced you to somebody. So the first thing that you need to have in place is a 1-minute pitch, a way to condense your whole business plan, strategy, vision into a 1-minute, very clear story. Something that can entice people and make them feel confident in you as a leader, make people feel excited about your vision. So that pitch is very important. If an investor is interested in hearing from you, they will ask you a lot of the time for a document called a one-pager. And this is kind of an official thing that all investors will come across. And if you Google it, you will find templates for one pager. So if you Google investment one pager, you can find what format that they need to be in, and they include pretty much everything in a very summarized form. And the reason that you need to have that document is because if investors are looking through a lot of different pitches, they don't quite have the time to look at the pitch deck and presentations for every single business. They might just look at the one pager and decide based on that. So it's a very important document to portray everything that you want in a one page thing. Once they've looked at that and they're interested in hearing more, then they might ask you for your slide deck, and then you might come in and present your pitch deck as well. So there's a couple of different pitching documents that you need to have in place, ready at any time if somebody asks to find out more information. Being pitch ready is ultimately the most important thing. So everything that we've talked about so far, knowing why you are, and knowing that investment is the right route for your business, and that you are an investable proposition, having everything in place that you're ready to receive the investment, and then being able to communicate all of that in a really clear and concise way that gets the investor to really believe in the vision as much as you do. And even if you had two of exactly the same business, say somebody else runs the exact same business as you and the other founder are going to be very different people. You're going to have a very different vision. You're going to want to run the business differently. You will want to use the money differently. You'll have different characters. And ultimately, the investor's final decision will come down to whether they believe in you as a founder. Do they want to put their money in you? Because you are really who they're investing in. You are going to make everything on within your strategy come to life. It comes down to you, right? So the way that you pitch everything, the way that you come across, the way you talk about things, that is a really, really, really important thing. And you need to get that right. Okay, so step 3 is going out and finding an investor. Now, this seems like quite a daunting task if you've never done it before. However, if you break it down to what it really is, you can make it feel much less overwhelming. So when people ask me what are the key activities that you should be undertaking to meet an investor, I would say there are 2 key things. So the first one is networking, and the second is sales. You might be thinking, I hate sales, I hate networking, but if you do, you're just going to have to suck it up and do it, because those are the 2 key activities that you will have to undertake if you want to raise investment. Ultimately, you need to look at finding an investor just the same way that you do looking for a customer. However, this investor is going to be the biggest, most important customer that you're going to get, and it's going to be the most important sale that you make. So, because you're selling your business, right? So an interesting thing to do is to put yourself in the shoes of the investor and undertake some customer discovery. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is figure out what kind of investor you want, right? So just as you would do with customer discovery, what does your investor look like? What kind of investments have they made before? What's their background? So you might be looking for an investor that just invests in your business and doesn't get involved at all, just somebody who wants to make some tax efficient investments. You might be looking for an investor that is an ex-entrepreneur within your industry. Great. You might be looking for an investor that brings a different set of expertise to the table from a different industry, because you want to add a different angle. So you really need to figure out who that person is before you can put yourself in their shoes. Imagine you are that person. You are an investor, and you have £500,000 that you want to invest in whatever your business is. So say a food tech business. So you've got the money, you know what you want to do with it. What are your steps going to be in order to find the business that you want to invest in? So if I was to carry this out, if I had the investment that I wanted to make, then the first thing I would do is go online and start doing my research, right? So I would, I might go onto Google and just search 5 top food tech startups that launched in 2020, or I might be specific and look for Brighton food tech startups. Or I might search how to find companies to invest in, which, that brings up a lot of content, because just like you are looking for the perfect investor, investors on their side are also looking to make the perfect investment. So they're also doing their research. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to go through all of those, go through that journey that they're taking and put yourself into the places that they arrive in, right? So if you're doing your research and you're coming across press releases about companies, you're coming across certain articles, certain websites, certain network events, certain directories, then you need to get yourself into those positions, right? If you are coming across, if you do, this is online, if you want to think about offline, what would you do as an investor? Who would you speak to? Who would you know? Where would you go? And the other thing to think about is not all investors, actually most investors, will not have, the word investor on their LinkedIn profile page or wherever, because if they did, then we would bombard them with our pictures every day. So looking for an investor has to take the approach of finding a customer, another human being, and selling to them your vision, building a relationship with them, and really understanding what they want. Because your investor might not even know that they're an investor yet. They might be a customer of yours, or they might just be somebody that an ex-entrepreneur within your industry that now has some money that they would invest if they had met you, right? So I think ultimately what it comes down to is you need to be getting yourself in front of as many people and telling as many people about your vision, about your business as you can, because you don't know where that investor will be. If you are a bit earlier stage and you don't quite have your product out there, you might be thinking, well, what about the risk of somebody stealing my idea? I don't want to just go out there and start telling the world about what I'm doing. Well, unfortunately, you are going to have to take that risk. And like I said earlier, an investment proposition is a lot of the time in the person and how they're going to do things. The idea, anybody can come up with an idea, but it's how it's executed. That is what's important, and that is what the investor will be looking at. So don't worry too much. Obviously, you don't want to give away any big secrets about how your technology works, but there is no harm in going out there and communicating your vision as much as you can. So what are your options when you're looking for an investor? Go online, put yourself in the investor's shoes, and go through the journey that they would go through, and then put yourself into those positions, of where they would reach if they were to look for your business. Have a look through events, whether they are networking events for investors. Pitch events are a really great way to get in front of investors. Social media is brilliant to use. Again, like I said, you don't know who the investors are, so you want to be selling your business to people. Just think about it as they're just other people who might potentially be interested in your business. And social media is a great way to build rapport and build some relationships based on your vision. So have a think about Twitter, LinkedIn. Press articles about what you're doing are very crucial, because investors might come across those. And sometimes it's a case of, if you know exactly who you want to be an investor, sometimes it is a case of reaching out cold. And it might not be the most fun thing to do, but it does work sometimes. Reaching out cold and saying, look, I would really like to work with you. You are the perfect investor for us. Let's have a chat. You've got to take the risk sometimes. And if you've done all the steps leading up to that, and you have thought about your business as an investment proposition that is attractive to an investor, not just as, I have loads of faith in my business, I know this is great. If you thought about it from the investor's perspective, and you've done your forecast, you've thought about how it's going to scale, you've thought about the 10x return, then and you've communicated it in the right way, in a clear way, in a confident way, then you increase the chances of that investor wanting to talk to you. A couple of other ways of getting investment that saves you the time and hassle of looking for investors is to get yourself on a crowdfunding website, an investment crowdfunding website like Crowdcube, where you just have to get onto the platform, and then they already have an audience of investors on there. So that is an option, but you have to remember that Crowdcube will take a cut of your business. So it's weighing up what's more important to you. And there are accelerators are also an alternative way to get investment for your business. You do have to be able to get onto the accelerator and prove that your business is investable and scalable. But with these guys, it's a bit more straightforward because you apply and then they decide. So it's very clear as to how that route to getting the investor is. So if that's something that you want to consider, then that is also another option. Ultimately, though, if you are looking for an angel investor, which is somebody who happens to have some money and they want to invest in a business, then it's going to be about networking and sales. That is ultimately what I think it's about. And you just need to get out there and tell everybody about what you're doing and what your vision is. Okay, so to summarize, step 1, figure out if this is definitely what you want. Is investment right for your business? Is your business proposition investable? Step 2, get yourself investment ready. Make the proposition easy, attractive, and a no-brainer for an investor. Step 3, get out there and find your investor. You have to be proactive. There are people who can help you find investors, but ultimately you as the founder need to go out there. This is your biggest sale. And by getting in front of the investor, you are proving that you are the right person to be running this business. So if you are currently seeking investment and you're thinking, right, I need to get started, what I would suggest you do is, after this video, take some time to just write down what is the one thing or the 2-3 things I could do today to get closer to getting investment. What are the small steps you could take today? And then, what's the next thing and the next thing, and just take it step by step and figure out what you could be doing, because being proactive is the only thing that you can control in this, right? Some people spend months, years raising investment and they're not successful. Some people spend a month and they're successful, right? So there are a lot of variables as to whether you'll get investment, but the one thing you can control is how proactive you are and how much you just get out there and sell. So that is what you need to do. Thank you for listening. For more support and guidance on investment, reach out to your local communities, your local business communities, get networking, and head over to brightonstartup.com for some guidance on and support and resources as well. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy the rest of the fundraiser.